Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. With Modern Warfare 3, we got some pretty significant updates and upgrades to our gunsmith system. It's a bit more detailed now, and with that, while there are a lot of new useful things you can use to your advantage when you're going through and building your setups and dropping in a game to see what works best for you, there are a few things you definitely need to look out for because there are some broken elements of these new features that could cause some significant issues given your certain situation. So today, as I walk you guys through the details, if you enjoy the video at all, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It would be really appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee that every single day you are covered with everything you need to know about Call of Duty, whether it's MW3 or Warzone, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But obviously, when you first jump into your gunsmith this year, the overall look and feel is going to be very similar to, MW2 and Warzone, one that we're very familiar with. You've got your different attachment selections. You can put up to 5 on any given weapon. But when you go into your actual attachments here, things have changed a little bit right away. Specifically when it comes to the pros and cons, things are detailed a little bit more now. You see that it's now denominated with these arrows or the full-on like flag here. So the largest flag would be what's going to give you the most. 2 arrows obviously is giving you a little bit more than just 1 arrow. So for instance, you're going to get worse ADS here, but better control, better velocity, and only a little bit of damage range if you use the Spirit Fire Suppressor. But the big thing here this year is with the detailed statistics. You can see that whenever you go into your gunsmith menu, you're going to have the option to show details with the left bumper or whatever your specific keybind is. And when you do so, you get this image here. And if I go through and I hide the face cam real quick, you'll see that yes, we do actually confirm that we're hurting our ADS speed relatively significantly here. We get some decent control, 7.1% added for horizontal and vertical. You get 5% range, 7.5% velocity. And that'll obviously stack on top of the base stats. Now, if we just look at no modifications here, we can see the longbow, for instance, is the weapon that I've got selected. We have everything available to us with our stats between damage, range, control, mobility, fire rate, so on and so forth. And shout out to the exclusive Ace. You guys know Ace is always phenomenal when it comes to in-game data and testing. He's actually already gone through and tested to see what exactly we have here that's accurate, if these detailed stats can be trusted. And if you want to check out his full video, I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. Would highly recommend going and checking it out. But for the most part, yes, we can go through and trust a lot of what's going on here with a few exceptions. And it actually has to do some with certain attachments and some with this overall system. For instance, things like range and control and mobility and whatnot are accurate, but damage on our left side here, we can see our headshot damage with the longbow is obviously crazy, being 240, the upper torso damage being 180, meaning I could one shot to the upper torso or the head with the longbow, but if I hit that lower torso, it's only 120. I'm not going to be able to one shot since we have 150 health. The problem is though, that's only headshot, upper torso, and lower torso. We also know that there are limb multipliers in COD with your arms and a lower body with your legs that would be applied as well, and that is actually missing here. So that's one broken element of this. It's not giving you all of the damage stats that you might need to know for a specific weapon. If you're able to shoot those leg shots and have a different damage value than your lower torso, that's obviously a significant chunk of data that's missing. But there's also some other interesting things going on here that could cause some issues in terms of overall transparency. I noticed this specifically on a lot of the weapons that have really high zoom optics. So the snipers and the marksman rifles, for instance, you can go through and, for instance, on this Cronin Intellis MSP12, what a name. It's saying that it's going to help out with your hip fire and tac stance spread and your ADS speed. And we can see that again, if I go through and hide the face cam so you can see that data, that's absolutely what's going on here. Our ADS movement speed is better. Our ADS speed is better. Our hip fire is better there as well. So that's all solid. That's fine. That's working as intended. It obviously says there's no cons. And as we can see, there's no cons. And for the most part, a lot of these attachments are going to be correct. The Intellis CAS 14, for instance, says that it's going to increase your hip fire and tac stance spread though, and we can see that's happening. But this actually says it's going to hurt your aim walking speed. As we can see very clearly there, the con, -1 arrow aim walking speed. But if we go through to the stats here on mobility, we have ADS speed movement plus 9.4%. It's up to 2.3 meters a second as opposed to 2.1. So clearly the Intellis Cast 14 is not hurting our aim walking speed. So either one or two things is wrong here. The detailed stats are incorrect here because as you can see on mobility there above the bar, it's actually red going backwards a little bit, whereas obviously it's a green positive on the plus 9.4% movement speed. So it seems like almost the stats there are incorrect and it's adding values that might not actually be happening in game. However, per Ace's testing, he was saying that, you know, stats like mobility and handling and accuracy and whatnot were correct from what he went through and tested. So you sort of get these mixed signals now from the menus, because obviously the con there says minus aim walking speed. Now it's possible that this is an optic that's supposed to help with your strafe speed, and the negative here, the con here, is incorrect. That aim walking speed arrow should not be there, and that red line above the mobility area should not be red. It should be green and going up, obviously. So already, you know, one attachment example in, we've got a lot of confusion here, and clearly something is not accurate with the transparency. So that's a pretty important stat now that it's up in the air. And ultimately the problem here is that as I show you more examples with some of these attachments being busted and some lacking stats entirely, what we have to do is essentially wait for either someone like Ace or True Game Data or JGod to go through and manually test every single attachment, which in the case of this game, when we have a billion attachments from MW2 and MW3, would take years to do, it seems like. Or we have to wait for sites like sim.gg to go through and data mine all the exact detailed stats from the game so we know exactly what is actually changing. And of course, this has been a huge issue for years now within Warzone and even dating back to MW 2019, needing the data mine stats to tell us what actually is happening, because so many times these various little bars in the bottom left with your damage and your fire rate and your range have been completely inaccurate and entirely wrong. So, you know, right away we're seeing some issues here. We also can go to some of the higher zoom optics, for instance, for snipers, as I started to say towards the beginning, once we finally get to the end here, and we see some other very interesting details. So for instance, this says it's going to kill your ADS speed, -3 arrows, and only slightly hurt your aim walking speed. But again, we go through and we only see cons for the ADS speed, a plus 14.5% increase there obviously would line up with the -3 arrows, but the con of minus walking speed or aim walking speed, not there in the upper mobility, even though we do actually see the red line again in that mobility tab showing that there is a decrease happening. So something there is missing. We also have situations like this where, for instance, the SZ Ultra 11.5 times optic says the pros here are just simply the zoom. The cons are that it's going to have worse ADS speed and worse aim walking speed. We go into this menu, and while we see that there are bars being highlighted, mobility is slightly worse, handling is slightly worse, range and accuracy are increased, there's actually no stats changing here according to the detailed stats. So again, we're now left to say, okay, what's wrong here? Is it the detailed stats page that's incorrect, or is it the pros and cons list that's incorrect? We also have even more bizarre situations where, for instance, on the Teplo Clearshot optic, it's supposed to be hurting your ADS speed and your strafe speed, but again, if we go into the detailed stats, we're seeing increases to your ADS speed and your strafe speed. It's making your ADS speed faster and your movement speed faster as well. So again, what is wrong here? Is it the pros and cons list? Is it the detailed stats list? You could be going off the cons list and say, okay, I don't want to use this optic because it's going to hurt my ADS speed. But if you trust the detailed stats, it's like, okay, I want to use this optic because it's going to actually buff my ADS speed and give me that, you know, nice advantage in game. So right away, just with the optic category alone, we've got some significant problems here. But that's not the only situation where this arises, and I'm sure we could go through and manually look at things all across the board with the lasers and, you know, the different barrels and stocks and whatnot. But another one that I feel stands out a lot is underbarrels, because a lot of these are going to have these properties. If we sort through, obviously we've got our attachments and our underbarrels from MW3 guns, but also ones from last year with MW2 with the Edge 47 and the Ripper, and specifically the Shark Fin, one that a lot of players were using last year in MW2 because this helps with aiming idle sway. And in the past with MW2 and Warzone 2, sim.gg confirmed that it was helping with that, making so that your weapon wasn't going back and forth when you would aim down sights and create sort of an RNG recoil pattern, which is why it was so useful. Well, it says it's helping out with aiming idle sway, right? So let's go into our detailed stats. Oh wait, absolutely nothing is detailed here. there are no detailed stats whatsoever. So what the detailed stats is missing here under maybe controller, the accuracy tab, is what's actually being buffed here or potentially nerfed in the sense of aiming, sway, and stability. It's just not translated to actual details here. There's nothing listed in control that shows you, okay, you're gonna have this much less sway or this much more sway, or same deal with accuracy. You see, there is technically a green bar above the accuracy tab. Again, do we know if that's accurate? We're not really sure, but there's absolutely nothing transparent about this in this particular instance that shows us that it's actually helping, even though clearly the cons and pros say something is going on. There shouldn't be any cons and there should be idle sway pros. And again, it's important to see these things because, for instance, on the Ripper, we also know that with MW2, this helped out with stability and idle sway, and it says it again does adhere with the 2 arrows. But if we go into our detailed stats, again, nothing is really translated here. Our accuracy tab is different because this helps out with hipfire accuracy. Our control tab is different because it says it's obviously offering base recoil control. But if you didn't know any better, you'd be looking at aiming idle sway and say, okay, it's in here somewhere, it's doing something. But in reality, those stats, again, aren't being pushed into this. So there needs to be some updates here, long story short, with the transparency and with the accuracy of our gunsmith system. Do we need to trust the pros and the cons, or do we need to trust the detailed stats? And on top of that, the detailed stats need to expand to give us the full details. There are some things missing here in terms of your full on damage, all of your stats here with idle sway and stability and stuff going on there. So while this is a huge upgrade to MW2 and Warzone in terms of transparency and having these stats available, you can do so much with this information that it does give you. There are some broken elements of this that are also definitely important in the long run. So that being said, that is going to wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful at all, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It would be really appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee you're up to date every single day with all things going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.